So now we are up to solving equations with rational numbers. So we might have fractions and decimals in our equations. We've solved equations with whole numbers before, so it really is the same concept. We just have to keep our fractions and our decimals all in line. So let's first work with decimals. I'm just going to do some problems for you, and then you can take this and do some on your own. So we have the equation y plus 7.3 equals negative 65. So we have an adding problem plus 7.3. So that means we are going to subtract 7.3 from both sides. Okay. This cancels out. We're left with y on the left. Now this is where we have to keep our signs, and if we're adding, subtracting, positive, negative numbers, it gets a little confusing. So think about that number line in your head. We have a negative 65. We're starting at negative 65, and we are subtracting a positive number. So that means we're going to go further to the left. So negative 65 minus 7.3, we're going to get more negative. So that is negative 72.3. Here is one with multiplication. Negative 5.2 times f equals 36.4. So we're going to use the inverse operation to get rid of this negative 5.2. Since it's multiplying, we are going to divide both sides by negative 5.2. Okay. So this side becomes easy. The negative 5.2 divided by negative 5.2 drops off. We're left with f. And now we are going to divide 36.4 divided by 5.2. Let's just hold on to this negative sign right there. We have to remember it, but I don't want it to confuse us here. So whenever we have a division problem and on the outside of the box is the decimal, we have to move it over the same number both inside and outside to make the outside a whole number. So now we have 52 into 364, and that is 7. We're just going to check that. There we go. So f equals 7, but now we check our sign. Remember that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So f is negative 7. Now we have a division problem. M divided by negative 3.2 equals negative 6. When we have a division problem, the inverse operation is multiplication. We multiply both sides by the same thing, whatever is in this denominator, and that is negative 3.2. This side cancels out, and we're left with m. And now we have negative 6 times negative 3.2. We can do that over here. 6 times 2 is 12, carry the 1, and we have 19. Now we have to do two things. We have to count the number of decimal places we have in our factors and put the same number of decimal places in our answer. So here we have one decimal place. So we have to put our decimal place one place over. And then we have to look at the sign. We have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. So our answer is 19.2. Now let's look at some fractions. X plus 1/9 equals negative 4/9. So since this is an addition problem, we use subtraction to get rid of that constant. So we are going to subtract 1/9 from both sides. The left becomes easy. We're left with x. And now here's where we have to keep track of our placement on our number line and which direction we're going. We have negative 4/9. We're starting there, and then we're subtracting another 1/9. So we're going to move more negative. So our answer is going to be negative 5/9. Here's another type of problem. Negative 3/8 plus k equals negative 7/8. So here we have a negative 3/8. We are going to add 3/8 to both sides. This drops off, we're left with K. Then now we have to watch our placement on our number line. Think of where you are. We're at -7/8, but we're adding a +3/8. So we're going to come to the right. So we're going to become less negative. And depending upon how big 3/8 is, who knows where we're going to end up. So if we're at -7/8 and we're adding 3/8, we are actually going to be at -4/8. We're coming this way, 3/8. And now we see, oh, -4/8, that's not reduced, that's not simplified. That we can reduce to -1/2. And then finally, if we have a multiplication with a fraction, 5/6 times W equals -7/18. So whenever we multiply, remember that we divide, that is our inverse operation, okay? But we are going to be dividing by a fraction. And in our last lesson, we learned that when we divide by a fraction, we are actually multiplying by its reciprocal. So we are going to multiply, we're going to flip this around, make that its reciprocal, 6/5. But we have to do that on both sides. So this now drops off. 6/5 times 5/6 is 1, and 1 times W is W. And now we could either multiply straight across or look for our common factors before we multiply. I like to do that because the numbers don't get as large. So I notice I have a 7 and a 5. I don't see any other factors, but then here I have a 6 and an 18. And we know that 6 is a factor of 18. So I am going to divide that out. I'm left with 1 up here and 3 in the denominator. Now I can multiply across. -7 times 1 is -7. And then the denominator, 3 times 5 is 15. So our answer is W equals -7/15.